Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. So listen, guys, the breaking news of the hour, the breaking news of the day: British fighter jets deployed over Poland and NATO troops will now be deployed. This is all going Billy Donkers right now, guys. It's absolutely going insane. So I'm going to talk about those two news stories this evening. But look, we've just got to put this into a wider context. Hang on, guys. We've just got to put this into a wider context, ladies and gentlemen. All right. So, British fighter jets have now been deployed to Poland to potentially shoot down Russian drones. Also, in fact, actually, let me just come on to that. I was, in fact, let me get the name of it. Actually, I was talking to one of my friends earlier about this deployment, and he was saying it's ridiculous. I'll give you some numbers in a second. Right. So here's some numbers for you guys. Okay. So at the moment, Poland are firing AIM 120 missiles at these drones. All right. These drones are made of styrofoam. They're literally probably cost like $5,000 to make. And Poland are firing missiles at them worth £500,000. So, well, or maybe euros. So you can understand the discrepancies there, can't you? You know, what we've talked about, the industrialization of this war, of this conflict. Also, Poland's president has authorized NATO deployment of troops on their ground. This builds up to what we were talking about earlier with, the potential of NATO troops being moved around Poland. Now, I spoke to some people literally just earlier on, and they were telling me that, yes, there are NATO troops moving around Poland. They don't know where they're going. They don't know why they're moving. What they think it could be in response to is let's not forget, there's the exercise in Belarus. And at this point, ladies and gentlemen, any military exercise, there's no such thing as a military exercise right now. You know, the Belarusians are doing military drills. The Ukrainians are doing. Everybody's doing military drills, and it's not an exercise anymore now, guys. It's operational rehearsals. That's what people are doing right now, guys. So I'm going to read these articles to you guys. British jets will now be defending the airspace over Poland, and there will be more NATO troops deployed to Poland. Now, I don't know where, and maybe it'll tell us on this article. I'm looking at this for the first time. But ladies and gentlemen, we are on. We are on. That was a tongue twister. That's what we're going to be talking about. And of course, we will be talking about, what's that guy? Pascal. What's his name? I forget his name. Bob Villan. He's still not answered me, guys. Bob Villan's still not answered. I hope you guys are, I hope you guys are sharing on his page my videos I'm doing. Look, guys, I saw a video of tomorrow morning. I'm going to do a longer video. Tomorrow morning, I'm going to do another video, a standalone video about Bob Villan. I saw a video of this guy, and he just turned into I've got to be very careful while I'm on TikTok. I saw a video. This guy, Pascal Robert Foster, or Robertson Foster, I saw a video of him saying, I wasn't making fun out of anyone. And I looked at his face and I thought, it's not fair. Honestly, guys, it's not fair. I've never actually seen his face. And I was looking at his face because he had the camera quite close. I was looking at his face and I was thinking, nah, not a chance. Not a chance. Not in a million years. If he had 100 years to train and he had 100 years to beat me and he fought me every day, he wouldn't be able to do it once. Not once. So what I think I'm going to do, to make it fair to Bob Villan, he hides behind his security. All right. So what I think I'm going to do, I think I'm going to open it up. I'm going to open the challenge up. And I'm going to say, right, Bob, I get it. I totally get it. All right. Not in a million years you're going to be able to defeat me. It's just not happening. Never. Not happening. You know, I'm 10 years older than him. Look, guys, I didn't even know who he was. And he's quite cut. He's quite cut. I've no doubt he can throw one bomb. He'll be able to throw one bomb. So what I think I'm going to say tomorrow is I think I'm going to call out his head of security. Like, whoever his head doorman is, whoever his head of security is, his head bouncer, what I'm going to say is, Bobby Villain, I get it. Like, you and me fighting, it's only going to go one way for you. So to give you a sporting chance, I'm going to either let you tag team with your head of security or one of your head bouncers, or I will have that sporting competition with your head bouncer first, just as a warm-up for me, and then you can come in, and, you may have a chance then. But ultimately, guys, he doesn't have a chance. Not even, like, remotely. I saw his face, and I was like, wow. This is a guy, like, honestly, he's screaming like a bull, but he looks like a lamb. And if you're a bull and you scream like a bull, fair enough. But if you're a lamb, don't squeal like a bull. There's only one place for lambs. And it sounds like Iron Maiden did a song about it. Right, Danny boy. Yes, I did. Sorry, guys. I'm digressing. Right, I will come on to let me get some comments. Yeah. Danny boy is saying, did you get an update from your friend in Poland? Yes, I did. He can confirm the same as you said. There are a lot of troop movements right now in Poland. They don't know where they're going. Yeah, that's all I got, basically. Yes, there is a lot of troop movement. What I was talking to him about is about the Polish firing a missile at these drones. So you've got to think about this, the new dynamics of warfare. We have new warfare now, guys, absolutely new warfare. And it's moving forwards at such a rate of, capacity, it's very difficult to keep track with. So right now, the Polish are firing I think it's AIM 120 missiles. Somebody Google that for me. I think it's AIM 120. Yeah. So the Polish military right now are firing AIM 120 missiles at these drones. Now, these drones, a lot of them are made of styrofoam. They're made of styrofoam. They're maybe like $5,000. These are like just the decoy ones. What their job is, it's to deplete the missiles. Now, those AIM 120 missiles, they're about €500,000. So you can see how everybody gets this wrong, except from me, ladies and gentlemen, except from me. I get this right every time, So just using that as a base of as a base of industrial concepts, it's not feasible, is it? It's not feasible firing $500,000 missile at a $5,000 drone. It's not feasible. You'll run out of money. You will literally run out. Of money before the bad guys run out of styrofoam. Believe me, all right? Styrofoam is relatively cheap, all right? And you will run out of money before that. Radar guarded. Joe Will is saying radar guided BVR missiles, 130, 160 kilometer range. Are we talking about those for defensive? Is that for defense? Dan is saying, are the British going to the EU border to prepare for war? Look, Dan, I don't want to speculate right now. I just want to give you the facts. All right. There's a lot of troop movements all over Poland right now. I spoke to my friends that are out there. I spoke to some of my friends in Poland. I spoke to my friends in Ukraine. Nobody has heard anything. And look, guys, this is my speculation, analysis, opinion. And of course, the video is for entertainment purposes, and take everything I say with a pinch of salt. The guys I know in Ukraine, they're telling me that they don't know of anybody that's crossed over the border. I'm not saying it's not happened. All I'm saying is they've not told me that anybody's crossed over the border. And if they told me, and if they did tell me what, and if they had have told me, what I would have said to them is, can you find me a news article or a Facebook post or an online tweet or something about it? And then I would have shared that with you. And I would have said, listen, guys, it's not me saying it. It's this article behind me. And that way I can cover my shoulders and I'm not getting done for misinformation. But no, nobody said anything that any troops are moving over the border. That said, there's a lot of movement right now in Poland. Also, the British RAF are sending more jets down to Poland to defend their airspace. You know, and quite a few videos back, I was talking about this. Well, sorry guys, I've got really bad. I had a curry for dinner. All right, I had a curry for dinner. We was talking about the likelihood of Polish jets, Polish F-16s flying over Ukraine, protecting the Ukrainian airspace, while offensive F-16s flown by Ukrainian pilots or flown by potentially mercenary pilots, and I do think that's happening, flying offensive missions. There's no way you can tell them apart. So right now, guys, I think the threat to put, you know, and I think it's a legitimate threat, the threat to Polish airfields has gone up massively. You know, because the Russians would claim, and I think they'd be right to claim, you know, you know, they would be absolutely 100% in their rights to say, right, you guys are flying airplanes from that airfield, and they're, you know, and they're coming to attack me, so I'm going to take out those airfields. I think that's on the cards at some point. Now, we talked about the likelihood of Poland and Belarus having a war. I still think that's on the cards. But what I can say, as of today, right now, we are edging closer to, you know, something could happen by accident. You know, for example, when there's this, you know, when this is why I said Article 4 is more potent. Article 4 is more, you know, Article 4 is more potent than Article 5, because in Article 4, it will set out those triggers. So, for example, right, if any jets are flying over Poland, they have the right or the ability, whatever, to shoot down any deemed threat. Okay, fine. What if they see, you know, what if it's what if it's a fast jet? What if it's something with people on it? What if someone gets lost? And don't think that doesn't happen, guys. Trust me, all right? I know that the RAF get lost quite a few times, so I can only speculate how much the Russians get lost, how much the Belarusians get lost. So right now we have got a lot of military movements all over that region, guys. Lots of movement all over that region. British fighter jets have now been deployed to, I'll read you this article now, actually. British fighter jets to fly air defense missions over Poland after Russia's drone incursion. Poland's Prime Minister Donald Tusk, not Donald Trump, previously said the incident brought his country the closest they have ever been to open conflict since World War II. Just days later, Russia also violated Romanian airspace. Sorry, that's the squatty in me. Royal Air Force jets will fly defensive missions over Poland as part of a NATO mission, the government has announced. The move comes as Russian drones last week entered Polish airspace in Vladimir Putin's most significant violation of NATO airspace yet. The Typhoons from RAF Coningsby, Lincolnshire, that's the one I was thinking of the other day, will join allied forces from Denmark, France and Germany to reinforce NATO's defence along the eastern side, the Ministry of Defence said. Now, here's one of the problems you're going to have. All these aircraft are not interchangeable. You know, so I know the Typhoons. Well, the Typhoons and the French aircraft will be interchangeable. You know, all these different nations have different aircraft. Now, that's fine when, you know, that's fine, you know, when things are in a peacekeeping role, in a counterterrorism role, when you've got air superiority. But when you're fighting a hot war with a near peer adversary, you know, when you're fighting a hot war with a near peer, okay, you can imagine this aerial battle now, guys, right? Okay, so you've got, I don't know, you've got two Typhoons, two F-16s, you know, and they're the, you know, they're the strike group. And on the other side, you've got, like, I don't know, 4 Su-57s, not Su-57s. That'll be outgunned. I don't know. Whatever, 4 Russian aircraft. You'll see where I'm going with this, guys, right? So you've got these aircraft coming to have combat with these aircraft. They whiz around, they do whatever, and they come back. Because the Russians have the same aircraft and all the parts are interchangeable. Yes, of course, they have different variations, but, you know, because they have the same aircraft and everything's interchangeable, it's very easy to get spares, to get munitions, to get different technicians. On this side, I mean, we've got British, Danish, French, Polish, German, you know, aircraft. It's very difficult, you know, it's very difficult to administer. James is saying, oh, in fact, no, hang on. Joe Will, hang on, let me pin this. Joe Will is saying, if these drones probed Polish airspace 2 weeks ago, it would have been the RAF dealing with them. I think what the problem is with these drones, they're so small and numerous and cheap, very difficult to deal with. You know, I mean, you think about it. You're going up and you're trying to, you've got like a multi-million-pound jet, and they're pretty cool, guys. Even the Typhoons are pretty cool. You know, you've got these Typhoons, multi-million pounds. I don't know how much they cost. You know, thousands of pounds an hour just to keep it in the air. And they're trying to intercept a little styrofoam drone. It's embarrassing. You know, and then they're firing missiles at these drones that are like 500,000. You know, it makes no sense. It makes absolutely no sense. Right, Jason, it's definitely on the news. Jason Rushton is saying it's not on the news. Definitely on the news. Breaking news: British fighter jets to deploy over Poland after Russia's drone incursion. That's on Sky News at 1951. So 41, sorry, 1951 today on Sky News. That is definitely on the news. Absolutely. Pineapple Chunks is saying where, in fact, no, Pineapple Chunks is, oh, won't let me pin that. Why not? Oh, right. This is weird. So Pineapple Chunks, your comment is not being approved. I'll tell you the comment. Where is the Dragonfire laser? Can these be deployed to take out drones at £10 a shot? No, they can't. They don't. They can't. They're not. So I've done this quite a lot when I've talked about the Dragonfire. The problem with Dragonfire is the problem with Dragonfire is the military procurement system. So when people wanted Dragonfire, it was maybe 5 or 10 years ago, when the threat was from bigger, more expensive, heavier drones, you know, whereby a laser would be able to take down one of these drones, which is fine. You know, you've taken down a multi-million-pound drone for $10 or whatever. Now, the problem is, by the time that got funded, the technology was already obsolete. By the time money got put into that project, the technology that they were funding was already outdated. Because now what you're seeing is, rather than one big expensive drone, you have 100 cheap drones. And a Dragonfire laser will be you might as well not even have it. You might as well not even have it for what it can do. You know, at the very most, the Dragonfire laser is going to be able to take down 4 drones. So you can imagine now, you know, your Dragonfire laser with all its bells and whistles, all the money that's been spent on that Dragonfire laser, is going to get taken out by a 10 grand drone, and that's going to be it, overdone, finished. Back to the drawing board. Yeah, Elaine Hamilton. It was on Sky News earlier. Right, guys. Let me continue on this, because also, right, I have got a little spiel to give you as well. So also, Poland's president has authorized deployment of NATO troops. Now, this is in the president of Poland has signed a new resolution authorizing the presence of a foreign military component from state parties of NATO on the territory of Poland. Now, this is in that operation, what was it called? Eastern Sentry. So we don't actually know what's being said. Well, you know, I said this would happen. You know, when people were talking about, oh, you've got Article 4, they're discussing it on Friday. I said, yeah, they're discussing Article 4, but we won't get told what is in that Article 4. Not a chance. And from this article here, you know, they're saying that the president's resolution is classified. You know, only the National Security Bureau understand what that is. So behind the scenes within NATO, well, I'll give you this here actually. Operation Eastern Sentry was announced in Brussels by NATO Secretary on Friday, following the drone incursions into Poland and Warsaw's invocation of NATO's Article 4. The plan aims to strengthen NATO's eastern flank in response to Russia's actions. Now, a lot of this stuff's going to be secret, and we're just not going to know about it. We can speculate, you know, some of the things that are going to be a given. They will identify rules of engagement. They will have identified preemptive strikes. I can guarantee that, and they will have identified defensive measures. So, you know, when people talk about Article 5, NATO Article 5, it really has got no, there's nothing to NATO Article 5, guys. It's not going to do anything. But NATO Article 4, because they've all come around the table and they've all said, right, okay, well, listen, Poland, if you get a drone strike or a missile strike and you can see the launch pad, yep, you're well within your rights to destroy that launch pad. And that would make sense. That would be perfectly fair game, you know. Bad guys are firing missiles. Missiles are hitting our country. I'm going to take out your missile launcher. You know, it's perfectly above board. Right, I'm going to jump over and get some comments on YouTube, guys. Good dude, Monkfish. Right, a good comment here from dude Monkfish on YouTube. He's saying the Suwalki cap to Kaliningrad will be occupied by Belarusian forces. Yeah, I think that's only a matter of time, guys. So for those of you guys who don't know, there's like a little, is it Latvia? I think it's Latvia. So if you guys can imagine a map of Europe now, you've like got Poland, Belarus here, sorry. And then you've got like this, I'm doing it the opposite way. So then you've got like this little enclave called Kaliningrad, which is it's Russian. There's about 60 or 70 kilometers of open countryside, which would link Belarus to Kaliningrad. Now, the town that they go through is called Suwalki. And what a lot of people are saying is, if the Belarusians or the Russians make a land grab through that corridor, they have the ability then to get onto the Baltic Sea, which, you know, I do think that is that will have been rehearsed 100 times, and I do think that's in the Russian. I do think that's in the playbook. From now, is saying Russia has been draining our resources from the start. Yes, exactly. Just like they did to Germany in World War II, they sacrificed. I can't say that word. They use troops as they are plenty. I hope Russian grub is good. Yeah. And look, ladies and gentlemen, right? If you're joining for the first time, and if this is the first time, if you're new to this channel, all right, my analogy, you know, and I'm just going here from what the comment says on YouTube, which is Russia has been draining our resources, basically. So yeah, if you've got I don't want to give you guys the analogy because I know I've given it a lot of times. If you train your military to work with conscripts, then they can work with conscripts. You can just keep pushing people out into those ranks. If you train your military to be the best military, to be, you know, give them all the best kit and equipment, train them up fantastically. When that military is gone, it's going to take you another year to train the next batch up. And this is one of the reasons. This is the main reason. This is the main reason when people say to me, Sean, how can the Russians win? And I'm saying, well, the Russians are winning. And here in the West, NATO, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, we don't have the stomach or the capacity to take those kind of losses. But other people will. And the first... I'm going to give you some headlines now. I'm going to give you some hypothetical headlines of a potential conflict between NATO minus the United States and Russia. Week one, you will get headlines like this: Russian forces, poorly armed Russian forces, no match for NATO troops. NATO tanks drive through poorly defended Russian front line. British military too fast for Russians. Heavy German armor undefeatable in the battlefield. And then the next month's going to come and the battlefield will stagnate. Heavy exchanges of fire between the Russians and NATO. Heavy exchanges of fire. And then it'll start to turn. Then the Russians will just start pushing back. Because the Russians, they use conscripts. Conscripts are nowhere, there's no, you know, for example, myself, with all the firearms training I've had, if 100 people come running towards me and I've got all the kit and equipment in the world, everything, and it's just me, and 100 people come running towards me and they've just got sticks and stones, at some point they're going to get me because there's 100 of them. And then those 100 just get replenished with another 100 and then another 100. And this is what people in the West don't understand. And then I look at these migrants coming over, and I don't know, guys. I don't know. I know there are smart people in the military. I know there are, and I know there are people who know what I know because I speak to a lot of them. I'm waiting for a text off one. No. So I do speak to a lot of the guys in the military who are, relatively high up. And they know the same as me. They know the same as me, that there's only so much you can do yes, you can win battles and battles, but you will take casualties yourself. And if it's taking a year to replenish one of your guys, and the other side can replenish hundreds like that, it's not gonna work. The numbers just don't add up. So this is why I'm thinking, the migrants that are coming over, I think there's going to be some sort of, I don't know, maybe some sort of like incentive, like service for citizenship or something. It's just, it's too much. There's something in it. Those migrants are not coming here for no reason. I don't know what that reason is, but I know that if the government wanted to stop them, they would. Now, if the government behind the scenes, if they understand and they know and they're 100% certain that we're heading towards a global conflict on an industrial scale that we cannot win without conscripts, that gives everything a different dimension. So then you start to think, I don't know. There's a lot of question marks here, guys. A lot of question marks. Michael O'Toole is saying Russia does not have an unlimited amount of men. It's finite. No, I agree. Nothing's, nothing is unlimited, only hope. Michael O'Toole is saying Russia does not have an unlimited amount of men. I agree, but the numbers that, Russia has a lot more people and everyone in Russia is a potential conscript, so they can essentially push everyone forwards. Whereas you try doing that in the West, like, not a chance. That's never going to happen in the West. Right, Chloe. Right, I'll always answer these questions, guys. Okay, so Chloe on YouTube, not on YouTube, Chloe on TikTok is saying, so do you think we're going to war like bombs on the UK and everything? No, I do not. I don't think that's coming yet. But what I do say, the situation's not changed, Chloe. I've always said Poland would be the next country to get attacked. And until Poland gets attacked, and until Poland gets dragged into this conflict, it makes no sense in thinking about any other country being dragged in. And even when Poland gets dragged in, I don't think Britain would be next on the list anyway. But, looking back from, what was it, Monday? Was it Monday? I think it was Monday. Monday, we did have a massive drone incursion into Poland. It was the first time NATO aircraft shot down Russian aircraft, and they were Polish aircraft. So you're seeing this direction of travel where Poland is getting, Poland is getting pulled into it. Liberty is saying, why are you saying war is coming? Because it is. I haven't seen anything. Liberty, I've been saying this is coming for a long time. We literally have right now in Eastern Europe two forces growing in strength, growing in numbers, growing in capacity, moving physically closer to each other, two hostile forces, moving closer and closer together. The prospect of war right now seems inevitable. Joe Will is saying, but without the United States, I can't see it happening. I really can see it happening without the United States. I think the United States will be going into the Middle East very soon. People have stopped talking about Iran or Iran. Iran's not gone away, guys, and the Americans have not gone away. And, the Iranians have said they're going to continue their nuclear, they've said they're going to continue their nuclear enrichment program. And the Americans have said we will take all action necessary to stop Iran and their nuclear, nuclear Is it nuclear enrichment? Uranium enrichment, sorry. Uranium enrichment projects. So, you know, that is going to come to loggerheads at some point. Absolutely. Martin Quinn is saying, been a bad day in the United States today. What? What? Hang on a minute. Hang on a minute. That can't be right. Let me Google this. Let me Google this. Whoa. How? Right, guys, I'm going to give you a headline here that totally slipped over my head. And thank you, Martin Quinn, for giving me this. This is wild. Right, I'm going to have to be careful about my words, all right? Trump condemns the brutal. There's a word when you take this thing off. And you usually use a sharp implement to do it. So when you get this thing and you take it off, Trump condemns the brutal of a motel manager in front of his family. What is happening in the United States? Trump says the suspect will be charged with, yeah, like you think, after Chandara Maule Nagaramala. I think I'm pronouncing that right. Originally from India, was transcended into a beam of light in Texas. Wow, that is unbelievable. Oh my God. Gee, and then there's a picture of him walking with it in his hand. What's going on? What is going on with the world? There's just a guy walking around in America holding somebody else's, just cruising around with it in his. What happened? What were they arguing over? And that happened in front of his wife and son. Wow. That is unbelievable. So they were a Cuban. So this was a Cuban guy, a Cuban national, Jordanis Cobos Martinez, 37, has been arrested. It's just insane. I'm aware of these terrible reports. A well-respected person in Dallas, Texas, who was brutally thing off in front of his wife and son by an illegal immigrant from Cuba who should have never been in our country. Wow. Yeah, thank you for putting me onto that. Yeah, that's just insane. Like, you know, when I hear these things, I often think, like, what drives someone to, like, you know, and they claim here in the United Kingdom, we have it as well. You know, people always, they do something and then they claim mental health problems. Yeah. Do you reckon? You tell me one person who's been in a right mind who does that. Oh, he had mental health problems. They all have mental health problems or they wouldn't do it in the first place. I heard Piers Morgan, and you know, I am coming back onto Irena Zarutska, you know, because this black guy who conducted a racist attack in America on this girl, Irena Zarutska, that was a racist attack. 100%, that was the racist attack. But we have to investigate it. We have to investigate why he got on the bus and he was saying, I'm taking that white girl. I'm going to take that white girl. And then you've got these liberal media saying, yes, but that doesn't mean it was racist. Can you imagine if Tommy Robinson got on a bus and he was saying, I'm going to take that black girl, I'm going to take that black girl, and that happened, would there be any doubt in people's mind that that was a racist attack? Would there? Would people say, what Tommy actually meant was, I'm going to take that white girl and I'm going to, and then at the last minute, because of his mental health problems, he decided to put a thing in her neck. Honestly, it makes me sick, guys. What kind of a person, what goes through someone's head? I get it, right? I get it. People piss you off in life. You want to punch people in the, I get it. I want to thump Pascal. Bob Villain, I get it. I want him to go home to his family. I actually want him to go home to his family with a black eye. I want him to live a long, prosperous life. I want everybody to live long, prosperous lives to the fullest, to the fullest of their ability. But when you're taking people's heads off, honestly, there should be a special punishment for that. Should be a special punishment for that. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Liberty is saying, right, okay. Liberty is saying, right, okay, hang on. Right, what's this about the UK fighters to defend Polish skies in the BBC article? What does that mean? Okay, so Liberty. Okay, so obviously, there's a conflict, obviously, between Ukraine and Russia. Some missiles and some drones that have been used to attack Ukraine have been flying over and they've been landing in Poland. Now, the Polish have seen this as a provocation, and they're not convinced that that it's mistakes. And even if it's not mistakes, those drones landing in Poland can still hurt people. So what's happened is the NATO alliance, which is 32 countries, have come together. They've had a meeting and they've agreed all to give additional assets and resources to protect the skies over Poland for potential drone attacks or missile attacks. So these aircraft that are going over to Poland, they will be to beef up the air defense on what they're calling the eastern flank, in something which is called Operation Eastern Sentry. I hope that's explained it for you, Liberty. Little Mumbles, oh no, not Little Mumbles, actually, Mumbles is one below. Little Miss Blossom, actually, is saying, we live next to an RAF base. If a war was ever to break out, what's our safest option? Get away from that airbase as quickly as you can. All air bases, if you live in the United Kingdom, one of the realistic targets of an airstrike, or what's it called, Oceanic, it will be the air bases. If you take out those runways, the aircraft can't leave. If the aircraft can't leave, you don't need to take them out because they're grounded. So any air base, any RAF bases, they would be 100% targets. People have this myth. People have this myth, and they think that the bad guys would they would take out the politicians and they take out government. No, they go straight for the military. Straight for the military. You would take out anything that could hit you back. So let's just talk about a potential nuclear strike. Let's just talk about a decapitation strike on the United Kingdom. Now, again, I think this is so unlikely. It's almost got a 0 chance of ever happening, but we'll talk about it. So a decapitation strike, people think you can't win a nuclear war. You actually can. You really can. You just need to go big. You need to go big and you need to go first. So a decapitation strike on the United Kingdom would be where Russia, or let's not say Russia, country X would launch their nuclear missiles, and they would aim at our nuclear missiles, our nuclear triad. So they take out our land-based systems, our sea-based systems, and our air-based systems. They would also take out any docks, any military, anything that could strike them back, basically emasculating us with one strike, so we have nothing. Then they would say, right, Britain, we've taken out all your military. Do you want to surrender, or do you want me to start taking cities out? And then if we said, we will never surrender, they'd say, okay, see you later, Birmingham. Right, Britain, do you surrender? We shall find them on the beaches. Okay, Manchester, gone. Okay, right, do you want to surrender? Yeah, we'll surrender. Yeah, surrender. You know, that's how you would do it. So that would be a nuclear decapitation strike. So people think erroneously that the government would be a target. The government wouldn't be a target. You know, you still want to keep some rule of law in that country. You know, you don't really want to destroy all the buildings too much, because somebody's going to have to rebuild them at some point, and you know, you don't really want to fit that bill. It's why, you know, the Russians have never really launched a full-scale assault on Kiev. Kiev's a beautiful city. Putin doesn't want to destroy it. That is as simple as, you know, Putin does not want to destroy Kiev. Right, I'm just jumping down, guys, and getting the Ray is saying, Jesus, Raven, you talk so much sense and you've been right about so much. Right, Ray, listen, I do need to caveat this, okay? Like the likelihood of the United Kingdom having a preemptive strike, it's practically zero. You know, it is practically zero. You know, practically zero. However, if I was just giving a hypothetical scenario there where you would do a it's called the decapitation strike, a preemptive strike. You go big, you go heavy, you destroy them all. Chris Poole is saying next would be satellites, surely. Satellites, you see, satellites are slightly different. You would take out satellites, which are eyes and ears, if you're going to do a ground invasion or you're going to do a big invasion, because you don't want people to see where you're coming from. If you're doing it with nuclear missiles, it kind of doesn't really matter. Ray is saying they're looking for something very particular in Kiev. I don't know what that is. Who knows? Liberty is saying, do you think the UK and other countries are giving stuff to Poland because they be attacked? Right. Yes, that is exactly why they're giving stuff to Poland, Liberty. 100% that is what's happening. Lord of Langwith is saying, have you listened to the War Game podcast? I listened to one episode. I threw my Diet Coke at the TV and I turned it off. They don't know what they're talking about. They've got no idea what they're talking about, you know. You've got these people on this podcast who've read too many books and not had enough winter and not done any operational tours. And, you know, there's nothing wrong with reading books, but you don't get the same feel. You know, you don't get the same feel and understanding. You don't get to look back and have like a hunch. You don't get to think, right, okay, I know that everybody's saying that's going to happen, but from my gut feeling, it's going to be that way. You know, you don't get that gut feeling if all you do is read books. Right, I'm going to get some comments on YouTube because it is going crackers at the moment. Right, what are we on for time? Okay, we're good. Right, ladies and gentlemen, we are at 51 minutes on TikTok. I will be jumping over to YouTube at on the hour, I guess. So if you've not done so already, I've not asked you yet, have I? Guys, can you please like, share, subscribe, bell notification, all the things that help this channel grow. And if you can, really help me out, guys. I'm starting to call out this guy, Bob Villan, and I want to meet him. Mono or Mono, Raven or Bobo. And, you know, I'm calling him out now. He's giving it the big one. He's giving it lots of mouth. If we can spam him, start spamming social media with my videos saying, you know, Bob Villan, I'm calling you out. You're a Walter Mitty. You know, I'll call him out, you know. Let's get him in a ring with me, guys. Let's get him in a ring with me. And, I'll say what I said earlier. It wouldn't be fair. It wouldn't be fair. So I'll open it up to him and I'll say, look, get one of your bouncers or your head of security. You can either tag team me, or I will have the sporting event with your head doorman, and I'll save you for dessert. Because honestly, it would literally be over within a minute. It would be over within a minute. I would have to have my kiddie gloves on, and I'm 10 years older than this guy. I'm 10 years older than this guy. I'd never actually seen his face. When I looked at his face, I just can tell, can you imagine that thing? Can you imagine that thing? Rapid fire. It's only going one way, guys. It's only going one way. It's only going one way for the poor lad. Only going one way for that poor lad. Right, I did that. Right, sorry, I was going to get some comments on YouTube. Thomas Hutchins is saying, what happened about the alleged drones in Romanian airspace? Yeah, so I think they were definitely well, okay, so what I always say about this, I've got no other information than what is out on the open source, so what I always say is the reality doesn't matter. It's the perception of that reality. So I'm giving you the perception of what we're being told. So we're being told, and again, I don't know if this happened, that there were drones made it into, made it into Romanian airspace. This was like 3 or 4 days after, so I think it's real. And if it isn't real, then it's being perceived as real. So people are going to react as it's real anyway. So, you're just getting this bigger buildup now of NATO aircraft moving closer to Ukraine, military forces moving closer to Ukraine. It's only going to be a matter of time before something happens by accident, and then it's all going to start. A good example of this is last year. I think it might have been October last year. I think it was October last year. There was a Russian warship and there was a German helicopter. Now, the German helicopter was flying and the Russian warship fired signal flares or something at the helicopter. Now, again, you can call it reckless, you can call it whatever you want. That really happened. Now, what could have happened then was, you can imagine the Russian captain saying, right, fire signal flares at that German helicopter. That gets passed down the chain of command, and at the bottom you get like a seaman or whatever, and he doesn't get the signal flares thing, and he just hears fire at that German helicopter. So he's like, all right, okay. Da, 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 da. So he fires at the German helicopter. The German helicopter sees it, gets hit, gives a mayday. Next thing, 2 hellfires go into that Russian ship. The Russian ship sinks. Boom. The Russian ship returns fire. And within the space of like a couple of minutes, World War III starts by mistake. That's how things could start by accident. Oh, you guys took out our ship unprovoked. No, you took our helicopter down unprovoked. When really it was literally just a miscommunication. That's how things could happen by that's how things could happen by accident. Mr. Freeze is saying, I don't know what. I'm going to have to come back to that, Mr. Freeze. When I've closed the chat down on the TikTok chat. Lisa is saying, didn't one of Putin's aides speak to Channel 4 journalist and said Putin won't use nuclear weapons, but it makes you wonder. It's just awful, just awful. Oh, guys, I don't think nuclear weapons are ever going to be used. I just don't think they're ever going to be used. I've given you guys my reasons for that in other live streams, and it is wild. I just don't think they're ever going to be used. There was a perfect chance, absolutely perfect chance for Russia to use nuclear weapons. They didn't. Gilly is saying, "Who's Bob Villain?" Bob Villain is a very vile person. Tiggs 100 is saying, hang on, let me pin this. Let me pin this from Tiggs. He's saying, have you seen the paper trail evidence from Gary Waterman? It's actually crazy. I haven't, no. Right, I'm jumping to the bottom of these chats, guys. I'm jumping to the bottom. We're about this close. Yeah, this is what I'm talking about. You know, we are so close. We are so close right now to this happening by accident. Here's another example. So, you know how you've got all the militaries pushing forwards right now, you know, in Poland, potentially in Romania, you know, right up to the borders. What if a similar situation happens on the Poland-Romanian border? What if one of the Belarusian soldiers is unloading his rifle and he accidentally pulls the trigger and a round goes off and that hits a Polish soldier? Poland think they're getting hit by snipers. They return fire. The Belarusians think that they're being attacked by the Polish. Then the Belarusians start throwing artillery. Then the Polish start throwing artillery. The next thing, you've got tanks on tanks, helicopters on helicopters. You know, that's what happens when people are tense and you keep putting the rules of engagement up and you just keep getting closer and closer. You know, that's where we're heading, guys. That really is where we're heading. Tiggs 100, Tiggs 100 is saying Gary Waterman links everyone at the top together on Company's House. He is an ex-copper. Can you tell me like where I can find that? I don't know what that is. Can you tell me where that Can you tell me what that is? Where I can find that Tiggs 100 or Tiggs 100 actually? Can you send me that as like can you send me that as a message, please, Tiggs 100, so I can have a look at it. I've not seen that. I wouldn't be able to comment. I wouldn't be able to comment on what Tiggs 100 is saying. I'll just pin it here. She's saying, I think it's a lady. Looks like a lady. And if you're not a lady, Tiggs 100, I do apologize. Tiggs 100 is saying Gary Waterman links everyone at the top on Company's House. Can you send me a link to that? Basically, I don't know what that I don't know what that means, but I do want to have a look at that for you, please. And Eileen Hamilton is saying, I've drunk my 50 litres of water for emergencies. Well, that's no good, is it? That's no good, drinking your emergency water. Right, ladies and gentlemen, I am going to close this down now on TikTok. The crux of this live stream has been a couple of things. Urgent war warning now, guys. The British fighter jets are deployed over Poland. The Polish president has signed a new resolution to deploy NATO troops on their ground. Now, this is all part of something called Operation, Eastern Sentry. And I can confirm from my sources on the ground and stuff you guys have said that there is a lot of movement at the moment with NATO troops in Poland, and it does look like they're moving closer to the border. I've spoken to people in Ukraine, and they've nobody said they've moved over the border yet. And if they did, what I would have done is I would have found an obscure X post or something, and I would have said this post is saying. That's how I would have got it, because if I'd have done it any other way, that would have been I would have been done for fake news. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to close this down now. I will be back on. Yeah, I'm gonna have a look for that. I'll be back on tomorrow morning at 10. If you're not jumping over to YouTube, guys, I bid you farewell and good evening. But if you are jumping over to YouTube, I'll see you there in a little bit, and I'm going to have another rant about this guy, Bob Villain. And I may use language that would not be accepted on TikTok. I'll see you later, guys. I think we're off. Are we off? Yes. Am I still on? No, the hearts are still going. Right. I may not be able to I may not be able to end the stream. I think, yes. Am I? I think I'm off. Yes, we're off. We are off, ladies and gentlemen. We're off. We're only streaming on YouTube. We're only streaming on X. That piece of scum, Bob Villain. Honestly. So he's out there. And he's saying the most vile things imaginable about a man who's just been murdered in front of his wife and kids. He's giving it the big one. He's giving it the big gangster. And then 24 hours later, he's online doing another video. No, I didn't say that. Shut up. Like, I looked at him on this video and I actually I didn't feel sorry for him. I did feel sorry for him. Because if he has to deal with the Raven, I could probably fight 5, maybe 6 Bob Villains at the same time. He's that pathetic. I looked at his face and straight away, if I saw him, I always say, I always say, you have to have a certain charisma to own a room, to command a room. Doesn't matter who you are, doesn't matter who you are. Like, I can walk into a room full of the baddest men on the planet. Literally, baddest men on the planet, whoever they are, whoever those baddest men on the planet are, I would walk in there, I would take my coat off. 2 of them would stand up and take it off me. I wouldn't even have to look at them, I put my hand out like that and somebody will give me a cup of tea. That's how I roll, all right? Bob Villain would walk into a room and he'd have to clean everyone's, I don't know, he'd have to like polish the floor or something. He's definitely got something wrong with him. But so have a lot of, so what? Doesn't excuse him. I mean, he's probably going to be claiming mental health at some point. Oh, it's not me, it's my mental health because of colonialism. I need reparations. Hang on a minute, your mum's white. Unbelievable. Right, let me get these comments. So yes, I am chatting shit about Bob Villain, and he keeps saying, you chat shit, you get banged. Well, I want you to come and bang me, Bobby. Come on, Bobby boy. Here I am. Come and bang me. Rocketman Gaming is saying, how do we get tickets to this match, Raven? I'm interested. We need to call him out first, guys. All right. So I can't do this. I can't do this on my own. This is why I need your help. Go onto my X, go onto my YouTube, get my videos and go and share it on his page. I'm going to be chatting loads of shit about him, guys. I am. I'm going to make it my mission to chat shit about him literally every day, maybe even 2-3 times a day. I'm even going to start calling his fans out as well. I'm going to start calling his fans out. At some point, we need to get a reaction. Just a reaction. We need to get a reaction from him, and then we need to build on it. I'll get worse, guys. I'll pull those pins out. There was no need for him to make fun of a man. I don't even know Charlie Kirk. I don't even know him. But to me, he appeared to be a good, wholesome guy. A good, wholesome guy. And he was murdered in front of his family. And you've got this piece of shit villain making fun out of him. No, he needs to be dealt with. He needs to be dealt with. And look, I'll be quite clear as well. I think I'm going to do it on tomorrow's video. I know he's not going to beat me. Not in, like, if he had 100 years to train and then he could fight me every day for 100 years, he wouldn't be able to beat me once. Not once. So I think I'm going to have to say something like, I'm calling you out, Bob, but I know you're not going to meet me. So, like, I'm inviting your heads of security. As long as I get to you at some point, we'll sign it in a contract, whether, we're tag teaming or whatever, I'll be there on my own. I don't need anybody to help me, the outcome's going to be the same. The outcome will be the same. So with that in mind, ladies and gentlemen, please go and share my stuff. I did a video earlier. It's on YouTube. It's called Bob Villain, I'm calling you out or something. I can't remember what it's called, but you know, if you could go and share that, I'd be really appreciated. I think tomorrow morning I'm either going to do a video about him and his fans, or I don't know. I'm going to keep doing them every morning, guys. You know, he won't escape me. And then after I've done it for a while and you guys keep posting it, then I can start doing videos calling him a coward, saying he's running, saying he's scared, saying he doesn't believe in it. You know, he's scared of me. And eventually people will start to notice. But it's not going to happen quickly. We need to keep on it. We need to keep that pressure, and we need to keep spamming. And eventually he will say, all right then, I'll bang your out. And I'll just think, 11 saintly shrouded men, silhouettes above the sky, one up front with a cross held high, come to wash my sins away. It will be on. It will be on like Donkey Kong. Lord of Language is saying, let's just call him by his real name. I thought about this. I thought, guys, listen, if you're just joining for the first time, I am talking about this piece of shit, Bob Villain. His real name is Pascal Robinson Foster. I've called him out. I want to get him in a ring. He's giving it the big one. He's telling people you chat shit, you get banged. I'm chatting shit. He ain't going to bang me because he doesn't have the minerals. I've looked at his face. I've seen his face straight up. If he lasts longer than a minute, in fact, do you know what I would do? I would actually say, I'm going to choke you out in the 5th round. And I'd just mess about with him. I would literally just mess about. If he wanted to go one-on-one, I would just mess about with him. You know, literally just play with him for like, I don't know, 4.5 rounds. And then when I felt like it, I'd choke him out at the end. But yeah, his real name is, you know, I can't remember. Pascal. Who's called Pascal? Who calls their kid Pascal? I think his mum and dad are like, I think his dad is a bit of a Nancy boy, and he let his wife rule him, and he was not. I think his dad was a beta dad. You know, he was a beta dad, and that's why he mouths off, because he's never had a father to discipline him. But don't worry, I'll give him all the discipline he needs. And do you know what? I might not even want any money out of it. I might say, do you know what? I don't even want a purse. I'll say, Villain, you get all the money whether you win or lose. But if you lose, I'm shaving your hair. Those dreadlocks, baby, they're mine. And then I want to shave your stupid beard. I do. That beard's mine. Or I might Mawashigeri his beard off. I think I could Mawashigeri that beard off. I'm pretty confident I could Mawashigeri his beard off. You want him to bang you. You want to play with him and choke him. Please stop, Sean. From now, he's saying the name Pascal comes from the Latin Pascal, meaning relating to Easter, pertaining the Passover. I think wanker myself. UK Urban Prepper is saying, who are we talking about? We are talking about Bob Villain, the piece of shit, the absolute piece of shit of this country. I mean, let's go back to his first announcement when he was saying, ha, I think you want your country back. Ha, shut the fuck up. And he's doing this. I'm going to make him do that. I will literally make him do that. I'll make him sing while he's bad jumping on one leg, skipping. You know, then he's just absolutely vile individual. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you can do me a real big favor, go and spam his page with my videos. I did a video before. It's not the last video I did on YouTube. It's the one before. It says, Bob Villain, I'm calling you out or something. That was my first one. I'm going to do another one tomorrow, and I'll keep doing these videos. You know, maybe not one every day, but I really want to keep that intensity up. I really want people to be spamming him, you know, spamming other people. You know, let's get some traction, and let's just make it happen. You know, let's make it happen. All we need to do is get him to bite. And once he's bitten, that's it. It's pretty much game over for him. My X account, Watcher Harrison, my X account is the same as this one. It's the Real Raven one. I literally, I think I've got like, I don't even know how many followers I've got on there, to be honest, but it's the Real Raven one, or you can scroll down and see the video on here and then go and post that onto his page. But he is an absolute piece of vileness. I spammed him loads today. He is now backtracking, not because of me. I bet he is. I bet he is backtracking because of us. Silly Gallardi is saying, I'm sure it will be broadcast on. Do you know who I'm talking about, Silly? Do you know who I'm talking about? This guy, Bob Villain. What a piece of shit. Right, ladies and gentlemen, listen, guys, I'm going to close this down now. Just to let you know, tomorrow morning, I'll be doing another video. So tomorrow morning, when I start the live stream in the morning, it will just be a live stream on YouTube and X. It will be like a couple of minutes calling out Bob Villain. They'll turn it off. I'll go and have a cup of tea. I'll come back and I'll start the normal morning live stream. The reason I'm doing that is just, you know, so it's easier to share those videos and it's more manageable. And if I do it while I'm on TikTok, I would 100% get those live streams banned because I'm being, you know, I'm being rather offensive and I am chatting shit about somebody I've never met. But you know what? I'm happy to go. I think he needs it. I think he needs to be taught some manners. He really needs to be taught some manners. Andrew Noble is saying, where do you get your information from? Information in context to what? I don't have any real information other than what's open to the you know, open source media. I have got friends who are living in Poland. I've got friends who are living in Ukraine. So, you know, I asked them for a lot of information, but information in regards to what? Andrew Noble, are you still here? Andrew Noble? Andrew Noble, are you still here? Right, I think Andrew Noble's gone. Right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to close this down now. Remember, I'll be back on at 10. I'll be back on a little bit before 10. That will just be a call out, another call out video to that guy, Bob Villain. I really want to meet him in a cage, guys. I really want to meet him in a cage. I'm 10 years older than him. I've got no problems with this. Absolutely no problems. He's the one going out there, putting himself out there, telling people he's going to bang people, he's going to do this, he's going to do that. Well, let's see if he puts his money where his mouth is. And if you guys can keep spamming him, you know, keep spamming him, keep getting information out there, keep posting my stuff on his page, then I can say, we can all start to say, hang on a minute, big man, you're being called out here, but you're not answering your own call. There's a word for that. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I will see you guys in the morning.